So this video is going to go through our next trip after our London trip, which as this video gets released will actually be on. And that next trip is at the back end of May, and we are heading to the Isle of Wight for a week. Now the Isle of Wight holds a very special place in my heart. It's the site of my family holidays when I was a kid, and we would go there almost every year, in fact every year for about 16 years. And because of that, it means an awful lot to me. The fact that I live here up in the northwest of England now means that I'm not in a position to visit the island as often as I'd like to. And we haven't been for a few years. In fact, we haven't been since Ollie was just born. Ollie is coming up for his 8th birthday, so that gives you an idea of how long that's been. As I said, we live in the northwest, so we do have to plan a trip to the Isle of Wight a little bit more carefully. And we thought, well, we'll try and utilise this as an opportunity to do something that we've been trying to get to for a couple of years, which is Paulton's Park. And Paulton's Park is the theme park down in Romsey, near Southampton on the south coast. It's very close to the Isle of Wight, to be fair. And it's a good 4.5 hour drive for us, which means that we aren't able to just pop down there. We have to make a proper plan and work out how we're going to do that. We're driving down to Paulton's Park on the Saturday morning. It's about a 4.5 hour drive without traffic. Now on a Saturday morning, we're pretty hopeful that there won't be much in the way of traffic, but you never know. And given that, my initial plan was to get there about lunchtime, but I'm actually going to change my mind a little bit. We're probably going to leave about 6 o'clock in the morning. I will tell my family that we're leaving about 5:30, and then they might be ready for 6. The idea being that we'll get down to Paulton's between 10 and 11, and then we'll be able to spend most of the day there. Now Paulton's it's a very good park, especially if you've got children. Because it has Peppa Pig World. It's the home of the UK's first Peppa Pig World, and only Peppa Pig World that I'm aware of. It is a really good themed area. I feel that without Peppa Pig World, Paulton's wouldn't have been able to expand to where they are now. We've been a couple of times in the past. First time we went when Josh was little, we went with my sister and we visited Peppa Pig World mostly. We did some of the other rides as well, but Josh was only 3, I think, at the time, and therefore we couldn't do an awful lot else. And we have been subsequently to that with Ollie, but Ollie was very small then as well, so he hasn't ridden an awful lot there either. But since we've been last time, they have increased their offering quite dramatically. They have their prehistoric area, which has 2 roller coasters in it, or 3 actually, but it has 2 newer ones in it, which is a Junior Boomerang and an SLC, a family inverted coaster. Both really good rides. I'm not a big fan of Boomerang rides because I don't like going backwards. However, still a decent ride. And the SLC, the junior inverted coaster, is pretty good. We will also get to experience Tornado Springs for the first time, somewhere where we haven't had a chance to visit yet. There's a couple of coasters there that we haven't been on. There's a max spinning coaster called Storm Chaser, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong on that, and a smaller coaster which is like Barnyard Flyer, which is another junior coaster. They're also building some new stuff for 2026, and we'll be able to see some of the areas that they're actually redoing for that. But their new for 2025 attraction is Ghostly Manor, which is, so Ghostly Manor, I think, is a Mac gameplay theatre, which is a new type of attraction. It is very much a rip-off of Ghostbusters, and we'd be remiss to suggest otherwise, but that's what it is. But it looks fun nonetheless. My wife absolutely loves Ghostbusters, so she might like that one. But the idea is, for me, if we can get down to Paulton's between 10 and 11, that'll give us 6 hours in the park. I've got a feeling we'll be able to get most of it done. And whilst we have got an overnight stay booked at Bartley Lodge, that overnight stay and the 2 days park ticket came in at £381 for the 4 of us, which isn't cheap, I'm not going to lie, but it is half term. And sometimes you have to accept the fact that things are more expensive at the weekends and at half terms. But If we manage to get the park done in day one, which there's a decent chance of us being able to do, I will ask the boys whether they want to go back for day 2. And if they decide against going back for day 2, we're going to head over to Portsmouth Historic Dockyard. But that will be solely dependent on, well, whether they want to do that or not. After day 2, on the Sunday evening, we're staying at the New Wheel Inn, which is a pub and lodging house in Lymington, because we're getting the ferry across to the island from Lymington. I've never done that ferry crossing before because I'm from the southeast, and it would make more sense it doesn't make any sense to go from there. However, because we're down in Romsey, it seemed like the best option. That stay in the New Inn came in at £80, I think, through booking.com, which is a decent rate for a family room. And then the next morning we'll be getting up, having some breakfast before we head over to Lymington to get the ferry. We were booked on the 11:20 ferry. You have to get there a little bit before. And then we'll be heading over to the Isle of Wight. Now, the Lymington ferry heads into docks at Yarmouth, which is on the west side of the island. Now, there is a castle at Yarmouth, an English heritage castle, so it won't cost me any extra money to get in. I don't think it's particularly big, but as we have an hour to kill, I think I'm going to try and have a little wander around there, just a visit to Yarmouth Castle. I've never been before. When we're on the island, we're staying for 6 nights, and we're staying at a place called Appledurkham Gardens Caravan Park, which is a caravan park in Wroxall, which is, it says it's near Ventnor, it's near God's Hill, if you know the Isle of Wight at all, but it's not far from Ventnor, but nothing's too far on the Isle of Wight, to be perfectly honest. Now, Appledurkham is where we used to spend most of our childhood holidays, although we did, when we were younger, we went in the clubhouse, we went in the apartments above the clubhouse, and then we progressed to staying in a tent. And for a couple of years we had our own touring caravan, and then we went back to the tent because my parents didn't particularly care for the touring caravan. But this year we're staying in the apartment above the clubhouse, and they're very well serviced. They're really nice looking apartments. Wasn't cheap. Again, it's half term. I don't expect things to be cheap when you go there at half term. So for the 6 nights stay, 6 nights accommodation, and the ferry crossing came in at £1,020. So not a cheap holiday by any stretch of the imagination. I've got a few things booked in, I've got a few things planned, sorry, but I've also got one thing specifically booked in. Now, on the Wednesday of our trip, the Blackdown Chine are having their Wild West Fest, where we can enjoy Blackdown Chine after dark. Now, Blackdown Chine is probably the last time that Josh will be interested in going to Blackdown Chine. He's getting a bit old for that sort of attraction. I'm sure he'll still like the Cowboy Town, and we'll get them some cap guns to play with and stuff like that. But it's their Wild West Fest, which has a live DJ, a huge party. I think it has a foam party, unless I'm very much mistaken. It also has some fireworks. The fireworks will be, what they'll do is what Blackdown have said is they'll keep an eye on the weather and the lighting. As soon as the light reaches the acceptable level, they'll start the fireworks. There's no specific time scale for those. Other things that we have planned for whilst we're on the island, we'll be going to Shanklin Chine. Shanklin Chine is it's illuminated gardens and waterfalls right at the western end of Shanklin Promenade. You can actually walk from the prom all the way up to Shanklin Old Town, which is a lovely little Shanklin Old Village, which is a lovely little village to go to if you want. There's some nice little shops. It looks really quaint. The Crab Inn looks amazing. Disappointingly, it's a Green King pub now. So, whilst there's nothing wrong with Green King pubs, something in me that feels wrong about that. That's just me being a bit snobby, I think. And we'll be visiting the Fisherman's Cottage, which is a small pub down at the bottom of Shanklin Chine, where we'll be having a spot of lunch. It's somewhere where my parents used to frequent when we would go on holiday. So it's something that I feel I should do in the circumstances. On another day, I'm planning on going to Osborne House. Osborne House is the holiday home of Queen Victoria. I believe, I might be incorrect on this one, but I seem to recall when I've been a few times, and I definitely went with the school once, but I believe that Queen Victoria actually died in Osborne House. Now, in one of the rooms there is a plaque that said this is the spot where Queen Victoria died, which is quite interesting. And it's a beautiful house. It's like a Mediterranean style. I want to say Baroque, but I don't think that's correct. But it is a Mediterranean style property. It looks lovely, and somewhere where it's got a lot of rich history. Fortunately for me, again, it is an English heritage property, which I have a season ticket for, which means it isn't going to cost us any extra. Now, there is one other English heritage property on the island, which is Carisbrooke Castle. So on the day we go to Osborne House, time permitting, we'll try and pop over to Carisbrooke Castle to have an hour or two of a little wander around that particular building. Now, again, this is memory, so again, are you quite happily to be proved incorrect or proved wrong, but I believe that Charles I was imprisoned in Carisbrooke Castle during the Civil War. Obviously, when we're on the Isle of Wight, for the most part, we'll be eating out, because I want to, it sounds odd, but I want to relive some of the things that I did when I was a kid. So there's various different places that we'll be eating out in. The Spyglass Inn, which is, most of these will be pubs, I'm not going to lie. And my mum and dad used to, when they weren't restaurant people, they had children. I've got children, taking them to a restaurant seems rather silly. But we'll be visiting the Spyglass Inn, which is in Ventnor. Again, right on the seafront, lovely property, and a really nice place, a really nice view across the English Channel there. We will also visit the White Mouse. Now, the White Mouse has been through many different owners, but I believe it's now family owned again rather than being run by a chain. But the White Mouse is a pub in Chale, which is very close to Blackgownd Chine actually, and we'll be going there for tea one night, going there for our evening meal, tea, dinner, whatever you want to call it. But that's on the list of places that we're definitely going to head to for an evening meal. Again, brings back very specific memories for me. And then we'll be doing all the usual things that a trip to the Isle of Wight entails. We'll be visiting Ventnor, having a walk along the Esplanade, going to the Isle of Wight shaped paddling pool at the end of it, and we're hoping for some nice weather. We're going at the end of May, so the weather recently in the UK has been pretty decent in May. We'll be going to Ventnor. I've already mentioned that we'll be going to Shanklin and Shanklin Chine, but we'll be walking along the front of the Summer Arcade, having a look around some of the shops and stuff there, and some of the arcade machines. And we'll also be going to Sandown, have a little trip on the pier, have a wander along. Sandown has a really nice sandy beach, to be fair. One of the other things we'll definitely be doing whilst we're on the island is a visit to God's Hill. God's Hill is very close to Appledurkham actually, but it's a lovely little village with a beautiful church in it. It also has the model village, which we might go to. It's got a model village, it's got tea rooms, it's got loads of little quaint shops, and we'll go and have something to eat in either the Taverners or the Griffin. Now, as I mentioned, we are staying at Appledurkham. Now, just near Appledurkham, Gardens Caravan Park, is Appledurkham House. Now, Appledurkham House is an abandoned stately home, which again is an English heritage property. However, it is free to visit, so you don't need to pay for that one. But I've never actually seen it. I've been to Appledurkham Gardens maybe 16, 17 times, and I've never once seen Appledurkham House aside from pictures. So I'm going to take a little wander down there one day, even if it's just me on my own who does that. But that's on my list of things to do. There's a plethora of other little things that we might do. If we get time, we might go to Allen Bay. There is an opportunity there to see so you can do all the sands experience and stuff like that, but there is also the Needles Battery, which I think my children would find that quite entertaining. So we can always that might be a possibility. And we'll have a drive along the Military Road, pop down to Freshwater, and we'll also head into Knighton. We'll maybe go for a spot of lunch in the Buddle Inn. I'd like to take a little walk down to Steep Hill Cove, which is just the western side of Ventnor, just to have a look around there. But I'm sure there will be some other things that we'll tack onto this tour that I haven't even thought about. One thing that I definitely will be doing during this trip, I have no doubt, is I will be regaling my family with interesting tales of the Isle of Wight. And when I say interesting tales of the Isle of Wight, I'm not entirely certain that they will necessarily agree with my interpretation that these tales are interesting. And I'll be saying to them, oh look, this is where we used to do this, this is where, oh that's where Rookley used to be, oh that's where Flowersbrook used to be, where we play mini golf, where we play putting. And a lot of these things don't exist anymore, sadly for me. However, they mean an awful lot to me, so I will be boring my family with them. I've got a pretty good sense of direction. I doubt very much I'll be using the sat-nav when we go over there, because last time when you use a sat-nav on somewhere like the Isle of Wight or any rural place in the UK, it'll quite often take you down very small narrow roads that aren't really designed for passing cars. And I know the island quite well. It's still in my head. Obviously roads will change, but in my head I believe I'll be able to navigate fairly straightforwardly. On the Sunday we'll leave the caravan park and head back over to Lymington to make the dreary journey home. It's always dreary on the way home because no one wants to go home from a holiday, do they? Especially not with a 4.5 hour drive. But this holiday means an awful lot to me, and I hope I'm able to share some really special memories with my family and visit some really nice and interesting places and things that they'll find fun. And I'd like to install in my boys the idea that they can see and do this sort of thing with their kids when they get older, if they have their own family. Thank you very much for listening to me babble on about our trip to the Isle of Wight. You can hear a plane taking off. I'm near Liverpool Airport. But that's what the helicopter was earlier on, if anyone heard that as well. But thank you very much for listening to me babble on about the Isle of Wight. It's massively appreciated. There will be some links to some of the places we're going, and in the description below. Obviously there'll be a series of videos about our adventures and what I've done and where we've been. And I hope that some people take the time to actually, I hope that if nothing else, that this video will give some people some ideas about what they can do, and these series of videos will give people watching an idea about some of the places they can visit on the island, some of the things they can see, and I hope that it brings back some memories for other people as well. Ultimately, the recording of these vlogs, whilst it is for me, whilst I do put them on YouTube, they are generally for me. They're my family holiday videos. They're my memories of the places we've been and the things we've seen, and the time and the fun that I spend with my family. That's what I live for. So if you've managed to get to the end, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and one more thing I will try and say is, and it sounds like I'm trying to get a catchphrase over, and I am, I guess, to a degree. However, one thing I want to say to everybody is, just get out there and explore your world. There's a myriad of exciting things to see and do on this planet, and some of them are right on your doorstep. If I have inspired anybody to do anything or visit anywhere or go and see anything that is in any of our videos, then I'm pleased. And as I'll say in the closing trailer as well, if anybody's got any ideas or any suggestions of places to go, things to see, especially if they're in the UK and especially if they're in North Wales or in the northwest of England. Let me know. I'm always looking for new exciting adventures. Thank you.
You have been watching Munchy Road Hippopotamus. Thank you for joining us in our adventures. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy our channel, and tell us about any adventures that you have in the comments below. Get out there and explore your world.